Hi and welcome to this SOLIDWORKS tutorial to create a plaster mould for a slip cast ceramic cup. This tutorial will focus on the use of move/copy bodies and the combine tool to create a 3-piece cup mould. The final ceramic cup part is available to download in the description. Before I create the mould, I need to create the cup model. To begin, start a new part. Sketching onto the front plane, sketch a 100mm vertical construction line. Then sketch a 45mm line along the top for the cup radius. Keeping the line sketch open, hover over the end point of the line so that the line turns into an arc, and end the arc in line with the bottom of the guide and the middle of the cup radius. Draw a 5mm line for the cup's foot ring, and use a centre line to draw a 3mm guide line upwards from the bottom point of the other guide. Join up the guide line end to the foot ring line. Again, using the line sketch tool, create an arc like this to create the inner curve of the cup's foot ring. Finally, close off the cup's profile from here to here and revolve the sketch 360 degrees. To create the handle of the cup, I will use a swept profile. To do this, I start a sketch on the front plane, select the edge of the cup profile and offset the edge by 3mm. Select the edge of the cup profile and offset the edge by 3mm and reverse the direction inwards to the cup. Click onto the sketch and tick the full construction box. Using the centerline sketch, draw a line from the centre of the cup downwards by 15mm. Then selecting the rectangle sketch tool, start a rectangle from the end of the guide, 60mm down and 65mm outwards. Check the full construction box. This sketch will be used as a boundary box for the handle's guide sketch. Using the spline tool, start the handle sweep guide from the offset sketch within the rectangle. Then click to add another point of the spline onto the top edge of the rectangle, then another lower down, staying within the rectangle guide. Then join it back up to the offset guide and the rectangle edge like this. Click on the spline points to adjust the spline handles until you're happy with the handle profile. You can also drag the spline points to make the handle wider, again staying within the rectangle so you maintain the handle size. If you drag the top point attached to the rectangle guide, the rectangle will move too, so fix this into place before moving it. With the guide finished, close the sketch. Before I create the profile for the handle sweep, I need to create a new plane that will sit perpendicular to the beginning of the handle guide. To do this, select Reference Geometry and Plane. For the first reference, select the first point of the handle's spline sketch. The second reference should be the spline itself. The preview of your plane should look like this, with the plane fully defined. OK it. Sketching onto the new plane, view the plane normal to, and make sure that you know where the first point of the handle's spline is. Use the centre rectangle and start the rectangle on the point. The dimensions should be 10mm by 6mm. View the cup on another angle to make sure that the sketch is centre to the handle guide, and fillet the rectangle corners using sketch fillet by 2mm. Keeping the sketch open, go to Features and select Sweep Boss. For the features profile, select the rectangle and the handle spline for the sweep path. Make sure you're happy with the preview and ensure Merge Result is ticked under Options and OK the feature. Soften the appearance of the handle by filleting the joining edges by 2mm. This next step is important for creating a model for a plaster mould for casting in ceramics. I must keep the cup model solid, but I also need to add something called a spare. This is used to create a funnel-like cavity in the mould. It is also where the opening of the mould will be and how the mould is slip cast. The spare is needed so that during the casting process of the plaster mould, you can pour in extra casting slip into the spare recess. During the casting process, the liquid clay level drops in the mould as the water is drawn out of the clay by the plaster mould. If the spare was not there, the slip level would drop down the mould and the cup would be cast thinner at the top. Once the mould has finished casting, slip is poured out of the mould from the spare's opening. The layer of cast slip in the mould is left to dry up and is later removed from the mould. Excess cast slip is cut away and the casting is cleaned up ready for firing. To add the spare to the cup model, start a new sketch onto the top face of the cup. Offset the face by 3mm, reversing the direction inwards. Extrude the sketch by 30mm, but draft the extrude outwards by 15 degrees. Ensure that Merge Result is ticked and OK the feature. With the cup model complete, I can start the mould. I begin by creating copies of the cup model. These will be used with the combine tool to create the mould parts. Using move/copy bodies, select the cup and change the feature instances to 3. Don't change any of the move or rotate dimensions, just make sure that copy is selected and OK the feature. You may get a warning telling you that you haven't moved anything. You can just ignore this. You can check into the solid bodies drop down to see that you have 4 copies of the cup model now. Sketching onto the front plane, I'm going to start mould part 1. Use the line tool to sketch from the end of the spur outwards by 40mm, then downwards by 130mm in line with the cup's base. Sketch another line along the top edge of the spur, then out again by 45mm. This side is wider to account for the handle. There has to be enough plaster around the cup to make the casting process more even. If the plaster was too thin, it would not be able to draw out enough water to cast the handle correctly. Continue the sketch downwards by 130mm, joining it up to the other side to create a rectangle. Extrude this sketch by 80mm, but ensure you untick merge result. This is very important as it needs to be a separate body. Now I'm going to use the combine feature. When the feature options open, select the mould part for the main body, ensuring the operation type is on subtract. Then for the bodies to combine, select one of the cup model copies. It doesn't matter which one is selected, and OK the feature. When you do this, the bodies to keep box will appear. Here, I need to select on selected bodies, as I don't want to keep the extra body created by the combine in the cup foot ring. When I check the body 1 box, the mould part highlights blue. This is the body I want to keep. Then just OK the selection to complete the feature. Next, I need to add mould natches to mould part 1. Natches are used for aligning the pieces of a plaster mould. To add these, start a new sketch on the inner face. Use the other side of the extrusion to create an offset of the rectangle face. The offset should be 20mm with the direction reversed inwards. Then select the sketch to make your construction lines. Using each corner of the rectangle as guides, draw 4 15mm circles onto each corner point. Extrude these by 8mm, keeping merge result ticked. Change the feature scope under selected bodies and select the mould part so that the natches only merge to this part, and OK the feature. Fillet the top faces of all the natches by 7mm. With the mould part finished, use move/copy bodies again and copy the mould part by 1 instance. Ready for the next step. To create the second mould part, start a new sketch on the face of the mould and select the back face of the mould and convert entities. Extrude this rectangle sketch by 80mm, unticking merge result. Using the combine tool again, ensure the operation type is subtract and select the second mould part for the main body. For the bodies to combine, select one of the cup models and the copy of the mould part 1. OK the feature. Like before, the bodies to keep box will appear. Click selected bodies and make sure that you only keep the mould part and not the foot ring negative here, and OK the feature. If I hide the 2 copies of the cup model under solid bodies, I can see inside the mould part so far. I just need to add the base of the mould, which will create the foot ring part of the cup. Bring the bodies back into view. Sketching onto the bottom face of the mould parts, use the rectangle tool to sketch corner to corner and offset the sketch by 20mm. Select the whole sketch and select for construction. Sketch 4 15mm circles onto the corners, and this time extrude cut the sketch by 8mm into the mould parts. Fillet the inner face of each cut by 7mm to create the negative for natches. Before I create the bottom of the mould, I use move/copy bodies again, and this time I select mould part 1 and 2 to copy with 1 instance. Sketching back onto the bottom face of one of the mould parts, draw a rectangle again, corner to corner, only this time extrude it by 30mm in one direction and 10mm in direction 2, unticking merge result. Then OK the feature. Finally, use combine again, ensure subtract is selected, and for the main body, select the base mould part. For bodies to combine, select the copies of mould part 1 and 2 and the cup model. OK the feature. I am now left with 4 final bodies, the cup model and the 3 mould parts. Clicking onto the bodies in the feature tree, you can see the outline of the separate mould parts. Before I export all the bodies to separate parts for an assembly, I'm going to rename them. Click onto the name of each body twice and rename each one. Save the document as mould, then right-clicking onto solid bodies, select Save Bodies. When the Save Bodies option box opens, click onto the Save icon. It will add all the bodies into the resulting parts box. OK the feature. This saves all the bodies as separate new parts. Close the mould part. With all the parts of the mould now separate, I can create an assembly with them. Starting a new assembly, I bring in all of the mould parts and the cup model. I made the mould parts together and placed the mould cut model parallel to the bottom of the mould. With the mould parts all together, you can see inside the mould the negative of the cut model. This includes the foot ring and the handle. Once I'm happy with my assembly, I bring in the final ceramic cup, showing the slip cast result of the mould and how the final product would look. I save my assembly. From my assembly, I created this exploded view animation of the mould and I rendered it in Visualize. Here you can see the mould opening and the final cast cup coming out of the mould. Thank you for watching this tutorial.